Hello everyone, welcome back. In this video we'll be talking about the sixth element of music, timbre. So the word looks like it's pronounced timbre, but it's actually timbre, side note there. And timbre can be described as the quality or tone color of a particular sound produced by either singing or playing a musical instrument. So that's kind of a vague definition here, but it's really how you describe what a sound sounds like. So you can often use adjectives to describe the timbre of a person's voice or an instrument. You can use terms like, as I've listed here, warm, harsh, bright, shrill, there's nasally, there's many different ways to do it. So for example, you might describe the violin as being bright. It's kind of high-pitched, it's not maybe harsh, but it's got a bright feel to it, I would say. So what causes the difference in timbre? How do we actually describe it? What does it really mean? So timbre really is the difference in sound waves produced by different voices and instruments. I put this down. So timbre helps us describe really why different instruments sound different from one another even when they're playing the same pitch. So for example, if I play the note E on my violin and then I play the note E on a trombone, you would be able to tell that I was playing two different instruments, even though both of those notes are sounding at the same frequency. And you'll recall from earlier videos that frequency is how fast a sound wave is moving, and that determines the pitch. So something that is higher pitched has a higher frequency, something that is lower pitched has a slower frequency. So if we take a look at a spectrogram here, I'll hide myself. You can see four different sound waves of four different instruments here: a violin, a trumpet, a flute, and an oboe. Now, in the spectrogram, each instrument is producing the same pitch. We can say, for example, a G here. And so each of these sound waves are moving at the same frequency and pretty much the same amplitude, which determines volume or loudness. So they should sound exactly the same, but of course we know that a violin doesn't sound like a trumpet and a trumpet doesn't sound like an oboe. So what we're looking for here is the difference in the slight differences in the actual shape of the sound wave. So even if they're moving at the same frequency, producing the same pitch, they each are shaped quite differently. And this is a result of different types of overtones produced by each instrument. So when you hear a tone being produced, I'll play you a G, for example. That sounds like one note, right? Your ears perceive that as being one note, but in fact you're hearing many, countless different notes at the same time, different pitches that come together to be perceived as one. So the G that I just played you, that you heard, that is the fundamental. That's what's called the fundamental of that sound wave. So it sounds like a G, but there are actually many other pitches that are higher pitched than that, and that creates what we'll call the overtone series. So any sound that you hear actually consists of many different pitches, the fundamental plus the overtones, and each instrument, each person's voice produces a unique set of overtones. So that also explains why you can be in a crowded room with tons of different people talking, and then you're still able to pick out your friend's voice from the other side of the room. It's because you're hearing that person's particular set of overtones in their voice. So it's a pretty cool concept. Each one of us has a sort of our own unique fingerprint, as it were. That's why each one of us has a different voice, and why a violin sounds different than a trumpet, because they each have different sets of overtones. So I'd like to show you a couple videos here that really nicely illustrate this concept. So this is a series of spectrogram recordings of different instruments, and you can actually see the sound waves. And so the very bottom line in the spectrogram will be the fundamental, that's what you're actually hearing, and all of the smaller lines above that, stacked on top, are the overtones. So first up here we'll have a piano. So you can see the fundamental down here as highlighted on there's a harpsichord, different fundamentals, or excuse me, different overtones, a guitar, a sitar, an Indian classical instrument. All right, so I think that's a great sort of visual guide to what the fundamental looks like, plus all of the overtones. And it's these overtones here that determine what the instrument actually sounds like. So as I said, of course, our ears perceive all of these various pitches stacked on top of each other as one single note. But there is a really great illustration here as well. It is possible in certain types of singing, and it requires extensive training. It's very difficult to do. Very few people in the world actually can do it. But it's a style of singing known as polyphonic overtone singing. And so here, poly, of course, means many, phone means sound. So this is where we've got somebody who is able to produce multiple pitches at the same time, which is very difficult and very cool. So this particular woman here is able to isolate the fundamental of a given pitch and maintain that pitch, hold it out, but also isolate the individual overtones that she's also producing. So you can actually hear the whole set of overtones as she's singing. So I'll let her explain, and then I'll play you an example of a piece of music that uses this style of singing.
Hello, I am Anna Maria, and I'm an overtone singer, and I'm going to tell you something about polyphonic singing today. Overtone singing is a voice technique where one person sings two notes at the same time.
Okay, so pretty cool, right? So that is an example of how the overtone series works and why our voices sound so unique. So that ends our discussion about timbre, and we will pick up in the next video discussing the next element of music. Thanks for watching.